Melanie.
Hi, Sarah.
There are a couple of folks as attendees, and so just let me know who you would like me to let in, or I can also make you co-host.
Well, I won't be here for the whole meeting, so I don't know if it's necessary. But there should be Mark Penny from Talon, Alan Page, or Bill Halloran and Polly Grailwall. They should be the same. Jim Gray and Alan Page and Mark. I mean, I'm happy to help if you want to co-host and have me look at who are.
Hi, Glenn. How are you? You're muted, but that smile made me think you're doing all right.
Yeah, so at least Bill Halloran and Mark Penny are from my application.
I see them. I'll let them in when we start that item.
Mm-hmm.
And we will not be doing YouTube tonight for DRC since City Council is also meeting this evening.
Mm-hmm.
But they're taking over the channel. So normally Commissioner Sim calls in. There is a number, but it's not a full phone number. I'm going to allow them to speak, and we'll see if it's Commissioner Sim. Hi there. Is this Commissioner Sim, or are you a member of the public?
This is Alan Page, Talent Design Group.
Hi, Alan Page. All
How
right.
are you?
I'm doing well. Expecting Commissioner Sim.
Sorry.
That's all right. I will. We'll promote you when it's your when your item is up.
Yep.
Thanks. And we do need Commissioner Sim for a quorum. So we are just waiting for.
I called his mobile number. He's not responding.
Oh, ready?
Oh, here he is. Yeah, Eugene, are you going to join us? Okay. Okay. He's having a hard time getting his laptop to respond. He's trying again.
Okay. Just to reiterate, we are waiting for Commissioner Sim. We do need him for a quorum. of commissioners to start the meeting. Aha, I think he's here.
Guess he's on his cell phone, I think.
Commissioner Sim, is that you?
Wow, that took a time. Thank you for your patience, Sarah.
No problem. We're glad you're here.
Wow, that was a struggle. Thank you for your patience, everyone. 4-time, 5-time around, it's probably better. Thank you. It's not your fault either, it looks like. Thank you.
Okay. And Commissioner Cass will be chairing the meeting this evening. And Commissioner Collins did resign from the Design Review Commission, so Vice Chair Cass will be taking over.
Okay, I'm Glenn Cass. This is the September 30th, 2020 Design Review Commission. We're going to start with roll call. My name is Glenn Cass. Next.
Oh, Eugene Sim.
Next.
Unmute, John Gray.
Thank you. Second item is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye. Glenn, aye.
Aye.
Eugene,
Eugene, I.
John,
John, aye.
thank you. Third item is public comments. This item is for public comments on upcoming items or items that are not on the exact agenda tonight. Do we have anyone that is in the...
So if you are an attendee and would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand using the raise your hand function on your screen. Or if you're calling in, you can press *9. I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, consent calendar. So we have one item on the consent calendar, DR 10-20 Stanley Jacobs. This is for a project at 471 Glenside Circle. Do I have any motions regarding the consent calendar? This is for continuance.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. This is Glenn, aye. Eugene?
Eugene, I.
John?
Aye.
Thank you. We had no study sessions tonight. We have no sign to consider. Continued public hearings. The first item, 7A, is DR 0918CC Paloran. This is for a project at 3814 Palo Alto Drive.
I'll be promoting the applicants and owners. Bill, Alan, Mark. Anyone else?
I think that is everyone, Sarah.
Okay, great.
Okay, we have a staff report then.
Yes. If you don't mind, I will be sharing my screen. Good evening, Design Review Commission and members of the public. Tonight I'll be discussing DR 0918CC, which is a request for a change of conditions to the approved application DR 0918 to modify the approved loggia at 3814 Palo Alto Drive. The application was first heard at the August 13th, 2020 Design Review Commission meeting, where the matter was continued to allow the applicant to address the following concerns: reduce the massing and bulk of the roof in relation to the overall residence, alter the design to be more consistent with the original approval, minimize visibility impacts to the east elevation neighbor, and submit comment, if possible, from the eastern neighbor. To address staff's and the Commission's comments, the applicant has modified the proposed roof from a gable to a flat roof, which helps break up the continuous roof line, providing visual relief and minimizing visual impacts. The applicant has also altered the design of the loggia to be similar to the project's original approved design. The applicant proposes to replace the heavy squared shingle pillars with thinner, lighter columns that will also help minimize the appearance of the loggia. The commission also asked the applicant to reach out to the east elevation neighbor since they would be most impacted by the proposed changes. The applicant was able to get in touch with the neighbor, and an email exchange can be seen in attachment F of the staff report. The project was evaluated in accordance with CEQA and found to be categorically exempt under section 15302, class 2. The application was continued from a previous meeting to a date certain. Therefore, an updated notice of public hearing was not provided to the public. Planning staff has not received any new public comment to be included with the staff report. Neighbor support letters received prior to the first hearing are included as attachment E. Staff finds that the revision to the plans better align the project with residential design guidelines. Staff recommends the commission review the revised project plans, conduct a public hearing, and adopt DRC Resolution 2020-08, finding the project exempt from CEQA and approving the project subject to conditions. I am available for questions.
Any questions from commissioners? Eugene, John, go ahead.
No.
I
No
do
comment.
have one. Melanie, in the staff report copy that I have, there is not an attachment F. Did I miss it, or can you share that with us? Well, you're muted.
Thank you. Let me go to the okay. Paul, it looks like it was attached, but I can share what I on my screen to show you the email. Oh, no.
Looking.
Sorry, I went too far.
You know something?
Hmm?
I just found it, actually.
Oh, okay. So you do have it?
I do. I'm reading it now.
Okay. I think also the applicant,
Thank
the applicant spoke more in depth with the neighbor. So if you had any questions, they could, I would have you address it to the owners, Mr. and Ms. Halloran.
No, I think the email is very clear. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. We have time for the Hallorans or their architect to present their side.
Yeah, this is Mark Penny from Talent Design. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Melanie and commissioners. I'll share my screen and just walk through a few slides that we have to augment the information in the staff report. All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yeah, we're good. Okay. So Melanie summarized things, quite well. I just wanted to show a few more views and point out a few more things. Starting with the floor plan, as mentioned, we used to have in the previously proposed scheme and in the currently approved scheme, we had solid wing walls coming off the house and really corner walls forming solid corners. And we think that this contributed to the sort of, what the commissioners felt was a more massive look. So in plan, we've gone back to freestanding columns at the corners and adjacent to the house to lighten the overall feel of the structure, detach it, give it more of a detached look from the house and make it read, more like a backyard installation than necessarily a continuation of the home. And so if we look at the west elevation, this is as viewed from in the applicant's backyard pool area. You can see in the previously proposed scheme, we had the continuation of the family room roof forming the roof over the loggia. And in the currently proposed scheme, no longer the case. We're back to a pergola structure with an effectively flat roof, very low slope roof, to decrease the massive appearance. And you can see, as compared with the currently approved or staff approved version, where we had the solid wing walls that I mentioned here and the solid corners, now opened to freestanding columns, which we think gets more back to the character of the originally approved scheme. So if we look from the east side, and of course this is the side where there was some concern with the neighbor, as discussed, the owners were able to contact the neighbor, and the neighbor responded saying that she thought the flat roof was a good solution. And then she had a few more questions, which the owners were able to answer, and we haven't heard anything else of any concern from the neighbor. So we think the concern from the east elevation has been addressed in that regard. And just a few other things, you know, in the currently approved and previously proposed scheme, you know, there's the way that the walls forming the outdoor barbecue area really read as kind of connected structurally to the rest of the house. And we've gone back to, it's a subtle thing, but you know, this is more freestanding now, or disconnected from the columns. There's a little bit of a gap there, which again makes the pergola read more like a freestanding element, and this fireplace and barbecue walls read as a separated element. Again, more in keeping with what was originally proposed. And finally, the view from the north. Again, just to illustrate where we had the solid columns before, now we're back to the more open, you know, arguably more elegant freestanding columns. And we've just implemented the pergola with a very low cross slope. And the plan would be that in the final detailing, there'd be some copper downspouts flanking the chimney here, and that is how we would deal with the drainage. So I think that's it. In summary, we feel that we've addressed the commissioner's concerns, and staff has agreed. So thank you for that, staff, and hopefully the commissioners agree. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the Hallorans? Okay, we're going to move on to public comments on this item. Do we have any public comments this evening?
If you would like to make a public comment on this item, you have 3 minutes to speak. Please use your raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, or *9 if you're calling in. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, we'll move on to commissioners' comments. Let's start with Eugene.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I don't have a lot more to add to that presentation. I want to commend the applicant for listening to the neighbor and also our request. And I think it's a good solution. So, you know, I don't have any more to add to that. So I do appreciate this current proposed scheme, and I wish the applicant really well. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, John, any comments?
In the same vein, I appreciate that the applicant and the designer took our comments to heart. I think it's a nice design that's responded to our requests, and I mean, you know, best of luck going forward.
Okay, and I guess I'm going to conclude the same. I appreciate their listening to our comments, and I think the solution is very viable and meets our findings. Do we have a resolution to approve? Can we make a resolution?
Yes, so I'd like to make a motion on behalf of the commission to approve this revised and proposed solution to the loggia area, and approve all the findings of approval per staff report.
And do we have a second?
Before I second, I just have a question. Looking at the draft resolution in the staff report, is this still applicable? It's of course dated, I believe, from our previous meeting. Is it dated from our previous? No, I'm sorry, it is dated from this meeting. So Melanie, this is the draft resolution that matches what Commissioner Stim stated?
Correct. It should be DRC Resolution DR 2008 for today's meeting date.
Okay, excellent. Then that's the resolution. I will second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Glenn Cass, aye. Eugene?
Eugene Sim, aye.
John?
John Gray, aye.
Okay, thank you. You have, what, 10 days, 14 days? I forget now. 14
14 days.
days. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 7B, which is HDP 15-20, VO 3-20, and GR 04-20. Justin and Jessica Kitagawa are the owners, and this is for property at 3363 Carlisle Terrace in Lafayette.
Good evening, Commissioners.
staff report?
Jonathan Fox here. I'll be presenting on behalf of Nancy Tran. She's presenting tonight at City Council. So at 3363 Carlisle Terrace, we have a hillside development request to construct just over 200 square feet of additions to an existing single-family residence on Carlisle Terrace. The permits requested are a hillside development permit due to its location in the Hillside Overlay District, a variance, which I'll get to in a second, to encroach within the front yard setback, and a grading permit to exceed 50 cubic yards of grading. So for the variance of the 200 square feet additions to the second story, 140 of it is to encroach within the front yard setback. And there's a couple important things to note here. One is that the existing residence, as you can see from the project plans, does not comply with the front yard setback of 25 feet for the R20 zoning district, nor does it comply with the side yard requirement of 10 feet. So the residence in its existing configuration is legal non-conforming, and the variance is proposing to construct additions to further that non-conformity. So there's two areas where they're planning on adding some mass. One is to the west here for the master bedroom addition, and then also another small piece right above the garage. So the two areas that are in question that are requesting the variance would not exceed the existing, or would not get any closer to the front property line than the existing residence does already. So it would match the layout just for the second story above. In making the findings for a variance, we need to look at three things. One, is there a physical constraint that warrants a variance? And staff believes that for that finding can be made, as the property has a smaller lot area than is expected in the R20 zoning district. So those standards lead to a greater burden than other properties that would conform. And then also the areas here in the rear yard are highly sloping. So as an alternative to constructing within the variance, the property owner would have to either build more in the rear yard, which would require greater amounts of grading, or they would have to build in this flat area here, which would reduce their already limited amount of outdoor living space. Another finding that would have to be made is that this is not a special grant of privilege, and we can look at the context map on the project plans, which show, here it's loading here in a second. The context map here shows that several properties in the neighborhood, the west, to the south, to the north, and to the east, all those properties are also, like the subject property, existing non-conforming and not following the R20 setback. The final variance finding to be made is that it is granting the variances within the intent of the zoning district, and staff finds that, yes, it is within the intent. It's in addition to an existing single-family residence, which is a permitted use in the R20 zoning district. With that, staff can make the required findings for the hillside development permit, the variance, and the grading, and staff recommends that the commission review the project, conduct a public hearing, and approve the resolution that staff has prepared for consideration. Thank you, and here for any questions.
Any questions from commissioners? Okay, let's move on to the applicant. Someone who is willing to speak for them.
I'm Dan Winterick. I'm the architect for the Kitagawas. And we feel like Jonathan has outlined the conditions that we're dealing with very well. You know, we've looked at all kinds of alternatives for layouts for the home, and the main thing is without the variance, we would basically lose a bedroom window in order to add on to the home behind the setbacks. So and I don't really have a lot more to add, but happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have one question. I was looking at the elevations, or somewhere I saw that the fence is 7 feet high, and I thought the city ordinance was a limit on the fence height to 6 feet.
Sarah, can you help me out with that? Or Jonathan?
So go ahead, Jonathan.
Oh,
What?
yes, I'll just acknowledge that Commissioner Cass is right. The proposal is for a 7-foot fence within the front yard setback. And yes, the maximum height would be 6 feet. So that is part of the request as well.
Request to go above that 6 foot?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, any comments from the community?
So if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand function or *9 if you're calling in. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, we're going to get comments from the commissioners. John, can you start this one?
Sure. Actually, I'd like to start with a question for the applicant and the designer. The street-facing facade currently is a stucco or concrete on the lower floor and a board and batten siding on the upper floor. And I see you've decided to change that for the new construction. And I'd like to hear your design rationale.
Sure. So Jessica and Justin would like the home to be a more contemporary look and feel, something simpler than what they have right now. Something certainly more of a modern flavor to it. We are retaining some of the board and bat at the existing living room on the left and at the entry.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Then just to go into comments, in my view, I would agree with the staff's presentation that the request for the variance and setbacks does seem justified on this particular project. So I would have no objection to that, and really no objection to otherwise in the design. I think it is quite reasonable under the constraints you're dealing with.
Okay, Eugene, comments?
So I think we make a very clear indication that variances are very difficult to achieve in our city unless there's clear findings. And I think the staff indicated and demonstrated today, talking about all the surrounding properties, not all, but east, west, and south and north, that Jonathan indicated they were all probably out of compliance due to the nature of those particular sites. But this particular one, based on the 3 findings that the staff just stipulated, physical limits and no special privilege, and meeting the intent of zoning. So I respectfully would agree with the staff report there. And again, this is one that we normally don't do, but in this case, of those three particular findings, I would concur with staff to allow this family to achieve their end goals in a very tight site. And then the other comment is I always usually make is about vertical vents and vent stacks and stacked vents in the bathrooms and all that. Try to blend it with the roof or put it on like more of the rear areas so that's not sightly. That's all. Okay, that's it, Chair. That's my comments. I think that this is a good application. Thank you.
Okay, and my comments actually parallel the other commissioners. I visited the site and I did find that the adjacent residents further down on Carlisle, I don't know if that's east or west or whatever, but in any way, further down, they all are non-conforming in regards to the normal setback for that zoning. And I found nothing that was out of the ordinary or special. I was a little surprised about the 7-foot height of the fence. And I'm not clear on the landscaping, how concealed that is. I mean, you're showing shrubs existing down below that on the existing, and it appears that those shrubs are the same shrubs now. So I can't tell from the drawing of the existing. Is it actually 1 foot higher, the fence, than what the existing fence is?
I'd have to go back and look at our drawings, but I believe the top elevation of the fence is at the same height as the existing, but we're eliminating a deck that's existing.
Okay, I'm able to make the findings that the city staff has. So do I have a motion regarding this project?
So moved, Chair, with all the staff findings of approval, particularly the three findings for the variance requested by this applicant.
Okay, do I have a second on this?
Sure, second that.
Okay, let's have a vote of the commissioners. Glenn Cass, aye.
Eugene Sim, aye.
John?
Aye.
Thank you. Again, 14 days. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 8A, which is a new public hearing. This is project HDP 13-20. Nick Holt, doing business as La Miranda Properties, is the owner. And this is going to be located at the intersection of Sierra Vista Way and Sessions Road. Do I have an applicant? Oh, no, I have staff first. Sorry.
Yes, that would be me again. So I'm going to first pull up Google Earth and show where this project is located.
Jonathan, while you're doing that, the names of any applicants I should be letting in?
Tim Worth and Dick Holt, if he is available.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so first we have the Lafayette city boundaries, and now we'll zoom in to the Holt property, which is at a unaddressed property at the intersection of Sierra Vista Way and Sessions Road. So this is the property here. HDP 1320 is a phase 2 hillside development application for development at this property. As you can see, it's just north of the bend on Sierra Vista Way, and there is a private road known as Sessions Road, which bisects the property from south to north and serves several homes to the north of the Northridge Lane subdivision. So the property is in the Hillside Overlay District. It's a vacant property again, heavily vegetated in all areas except for that roadway again for Sessions Road. So phase one was approved by the Planning Commission earlier this year for approximately 2,300 square foot single family residence. The phase one application was appealed by the neighbors to the east at 1139 Sierra Vista Way. It was taken to the city council, and the city council ultimately upheld the Planning Commission's approval, denied the appeal, and approved the project subject to conditions. That phase one application, again, is only for siding and massing only. The city council in the Planning Commission in their deliberations spent a great deal amount of time looking at where the residence would be located in order to maintain the privacy of that neighboring property to the east. And in the phase one review, the three main areas of concern or discussion was the buildability of the lot, which staff has found to be a legal lot of record and is entitled to some form of economic development or economic use, in this case, a single family residence. The second was neighborhood consistency. The city council found that the 2,300 square foot single family residence, of that, I believe is around 18 or 19 is actual living area, is consistent, if not less, than other homes in the Sierra Vista Way area. And in terms of privacy impacts, again, the city council and the planning commission spent a great deal amount of time moving the residence in small ways, shifting it north up the slope, shifting it away from the eastern property line in order to protect the privacy of that eastern property neighbor. So the architect will go into more of the design of the phase two application, but I wanted to spend my time going over how the project has complied with the phase one conditions, as well as what conditions staff recommends moving forward. So in the phase one application, again, siding and massing, the city council granted a variance to move the residence further to the west. I'll pull up the plans here. Further to the west, closer to Sessions Road, in order to come off the eastern property line and in order to protect some of those California redwoods on the eastern property line. So here we can see the site. The property would be accessed by a new curb cut on Sierra Vista. It's located in between paved Sessions Road and that eastern property line. So one of the benefits of coming off of that eastern property line was retaining these redwoods here. And as part of the approval of the phase one application, the city council directed the property owner to recalculate the number of mitigation trees that would be required to be planted or mitigated in some way, maybe through an in lieu fee, and the applicant has done that. So for the 12 protected trees to be removed, and based on the collective diameter of each of those, it will result in 96 trees required, 38 of which are to be provided. The second condition that the city council imposed for this application was for the applicant to come back with a more robust landscape plan, which they've done here. They've added a few more shrubs in some of the empty spaces in order to further screen the residents to the east, again, which was one of the main concerns of phase one. So they've added a few more shrubs here on the eastern property line. Staff finds that this condition, both conditions has been satisfied, but just as a precaution, we refer the application out to the city landscape consultant, asking if there was additional opportunities for planting and if the species that were shown were appropriate. And he didn't highlight any issues with the level of screening, but he did offer recommendations on replacing all of the proposed non-native plants with California native species, as well as replacing the fruit-bearing trees with non-fruit-bearing trees in order to hopefully hopefully reduce the burden on that eastern property neighbor that might have to be left with some of that maintenance. So those recommendations from the CLC have been incorporated as conditions of approval. The last condition of approval staff recommends is for colors and materials. So staff finds that the stucco color is a bit too light for the hillside overlay district. A bit too light to what we typically see in the hillside, where the colors are of darker shade and natural tones to blend the residents more into the natural environment. So as a condition of approval, staff has prepared one for consideration that the property owner come back prior to permit issuance with a revised stucco color. Other than that, staff is supportive of the application, finds that it can make the design review findings that were not touched on by the City Council, and recommends that the Design Review Commission review the proposed project, conduct a public hearing, and approve DRC Resolution 2020-07, approving it subject to conditions. Here for any questions.
Yes, this is Glenn. Do you know specifically which tree species they're looking to eliminate? Is that just the silverberry, or does it go beyond the silverberry?
And when you say they, are you referring to the city landscape consultant's recommendations?
Yeah, your landscape consultant's recommendations for them to change out species to natives.
It would be all of the non-native ones. I can pull up the staff report here and hopefully I can pick it up.
Well, Toyon, Sweet Bay, and strawberries, I think are all native. I'm not really that aware of what the buckthorn is. I do know that the silverberry is not a native.
Looking through our referral comments. So I'd be happy to address that one. If the other commissioners have a question, I can continue looking at this.
I have one other question, may not be that relevant, but we did get a letter from the adjoining neighbor disputing something about the property line. On the drawings that you put up on the screen, is that the correct or non-correct property line on that boundary?
So I believe Ms. Swarsh is referring to the city produced aerials, which I can show right now.
So it's the aerials. Okay.
Yeah,
so the actual site plan is showing the correct property line then.
Correct. The site plan that's prepared by the applicant is based on a survey.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? John, go ahead.
Jonathan, I'd like you to help me understand the design changes that are made between the phase 1 and phase 2 documents. In particular, I believe a condition of approval had to do with window design to address privacy concerns of the neighbor. And it looked quite similar to me, the phase 1 and phase 2 designs, and I just wanted to see what you could help me understand there.
Yes, the phase 1 and phase 2 are actually very similar, and in this case, the phase 1 application was more well thought out than typical of a phase 1. So phase 1 usually looks at just the elevations, possibly, and the siding of the residence. But in their phase one, they already had a floor plan. They already had renderings done. They already had colors selected. So between phase one and phase two, there's little change. And I do believe, I think you're referring to a public comment about window modifications. And I've looked through the city council minutes again and did not see that in their direction to the design review commission.
Okay, I see. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Let's move on to what? The applicant? Who is going to speak for us tonight?
Tim, you're in the meeting and you have your 10 minutes.
Is he unmuted?
There.
There
That
you
work?
go.
Okay. Sorry I'm late, but you guys got to look at the moon tonight. Between the smoke and the color, it's pretty cool. All right, back to the subject. As I think the staff report indicates, we've gone through, this is since 2018, we've gone through, we've designed this thing 4 times. And the basic issues that kind of came into play are obviously easements and where the easements are. Access, the fire department did not want us to use that Sessions Road because it's 25% slopes. So they wanted us to have our own driveway. We had a lot of trees to deal with and to replace. And there's obviously, if you look at the site plan and the survey, there's a lot of encroachments on the property from off-site. So we had some restrictions, especially in the driveway coming up to the house. And then of course, privacy. And that's what really drove a lot of things. So that in this latest iteration, we sort of tipped the house more into the easement adjacent to the Sessions Road trail easement. So we're closer to that than we should be. But the idea was to turn the house and get it so it gave more room and saved 2 trees on the lower side for privacy to the neighbors. Now, this sort of limited our turnaround for the car. The engineer we sort of gave him graphs, and the engineer is relatively happy with that. He's certainly, and as the staff report says, wants to see a little more definitive grading and drainage and how that really is working. As far as the architecture, you know, what we basically tried to raise the house as high as we could do it to get it as far back as possible, so we weren't adjacent to the neighbors. So in every effort that we did over the last 1.5 years, it was to move the house, but we could only do it with a 10% slope coming off the street, 20% up the drive, and then dropping to 10, and then or 13, and then down to 10 to get in the garage. So a lot of that is driven by that slope. And so that's kind of where the placement ended up. As far as the architecture, you know, we're basically a 1,600 square foot house with a garage. Now, that's probably the smallest house. It is certainly the smallest house in Lafayette I've ever done. You know, just because it's a 3-bedroom home, but it's tiny and 22 feet wide all the way up. So there were some, you know, what we were trying to do is simple forms, stepping. We tried to move these windows so that they were as far away, like for instance, the windows in the living room. We really don't have any windows facing out toward near the owners. The first windows are really almost 80 feet up the hill from the neighbors. And you could see in the elevation, if you look at A2.2 that we can move those windows a bit, but at one point, one of the windows starts to get in the grade. So we certainly can try to do as much as we can, because that was a real effort on the part of the Planning Commission to kind of make this, the privacy thing, try to solve that. As far as issues regarding, the height, and, since we don't have any outside area, that's why we put sort of a sod roof on top of this thing. We tried to limit the amount of coverage that we're using, so we have a ton of pervious pavers, and especially on a slope, to do pervious, you have to sort of do little dikes to kind of hold pavers. So it's a pretty intricate little thing. We've got solar, and we're storing all the water in a water tank to try to be able to reuse the water. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're trying to do. The colors and things, I'm certainly open to ideas about that. We're trying to use a couple materials. We've used some of this Corten before, that color, and it's a nice, we think it's a nice mixture between the darker stucco and the hardy board. And since obviously this is in a wooey kind of situation, we've got to make everything bulletproof as far as fire. So that's it. Sorry. Sorry, it's a little brief. Thank you.
Okay, that completes comments from the applicant. Do I have any questions from commissioners? John?
Not me. Go ahead, Eugene.
Yeah, thanks, John. Through the chair, to the applicant, sorry, I think that my question is really to that architect again. I just want to make sure the sight line from the second story living deck, that area, toward the adjacent property that is downslope from it. I know that's the real purpose and reason why all these moves were done from a site planning standpoint, but I still wanted just to confirm from that rooftop deck, second floor, that we're not seeing anything into the adjacent property. So this is a question to the architect, actually, to Mr. Ward. Sorry about that. I think this might be a little bit out of line, but I meant to ask this question. Can I do that, Chair?
That's what you're doing now.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Ward?
We're not in comment phase, we're in question phase.
I think that upper area we just thought is probably the only outside area that the homeowner will have. It's got a deck in front, which is just a deck, as I say, and so we're sort of looking at that outside upper area as a lawn. Maybe it's a garden, whatever someone might want to do. What might be a good solution is to sort of raise the railings. Instead of 42, we go to 48 or something higher, so that it really kind of, makes it seem a little more private to the neighbors, or something along those lines. We'd certainly be open to that too.
So Mr. Ward, we typically have applicants demonstrate to us the sight line between adjacent properties. And I know the site plan was all about that, but now looking at it from a DRC angle, more details to see if there's any other items to look at. I would be interested in just confirming that the adjacent neighbors' windows or any private porches and patios downstream from your property, from your deck, is being considered and being sensitized. So that's all. If you've done that study, and let us know for the record that you have already done so and have confirmed it, I would just need to know that from a confidence standpoint. And if not, then I would need you to demonstrate that with a diagram or some analysis that from the edge of the deck, particularly the second floor, and maybe even the upper floor there too. I don't know how the upper floor and third floor is being considered for use, but I know the second floor is an extension of the living area. From a noise and sight line toward the adjacent neighbor, that's the only thing that really would be a concern to me. So if you could just confirm that you've done that study, or that you could give us further analysis to confirm that you have that taken care of, then that's the main concern for me right now, Mr. Ward.
Okay, well, I mean, no, I don't, I guess it's a sound study or a visual study.
Well, you don't need a, yeah. Yeah, visual is what I'm talking about. Visual, sightline.
Yeah, because one of the things, it's clear that that deck is 20 feet above the finished floor of the lowest floor of that adjacent home. And the adjacent home is not 10 feet off the property line. It's 5.5 feet. So, you know, we're already dealing with a difficult situation. That's why we turned it. Now, if you want us to put a wall there, we could do a higher wall so that it, you know, on that elevation, on the east elevation, that's a high wall there. That's fine too. I don't know, you know, when we demonstrate it, I'm sure at 20 feet above, you said someone came to the rail, they're going to be able to look down.
And you've talked to the neighbor as well, so you've got that understood with the neighbor? Like, they haven't made any comments about this project, about that yet.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I've, you know, I've had only short conversations until it went bad. So they're not happy with the project. That's clear.
Yeah. So just to be a good neighbor and just to make sure we've done our due diligence, if you could on like elevation, west elevation, or even a cross section through the slope there with adjacent property downstream, locate that adjacent property and a relative vertical datum point, you know, meaning, you know, grade point, and then show the general mass of that other building and show where some of the window features might be, and then put a sight line from the edge of that deck where your guardrail is, and just show what that relationship would be. That's what I would like to see. That's all, just to confirm that we're good over there. Okay. But architecture character, I have no problem. But okay, very good. Thank you, Chair. That's the only comment I have for Mr. Ward. So going back to the commissioner's comments, I think that I think generally that would be my concern there, Chair. That's the only concern. The massing, stepping up the hill looks reasonable. I do have a question on the north elevation, but no one sees that backside where the restrooms are, where there's just 2 windows about it. That's just a rear and it's a private property. I don't think I have major issues there. It's just a public area toward the adjacent property, having potential sightline toward adjacent properties, you know, private or semi-private areas. That's the only thing I would like just to make sure we're confirmed. Okay, that's it, Chair.
Okay, I share some of Eugene's concerns, particularly off of the patio on the living room. I have no idea. I have nothing I can look at that gives me an idea what the visibility of people looking from that patio down on the adjacent property is. So I don't know if you're looking at only their backyard or looking actually in their windows or what, because there's no cross-sectional area, no display of what that is. Obviously, the front deck has some visibility. It will always have some visibility. I'm not sure that a 42-inch rail versus a 48-inch rail is going to really make a big difference there. But as far as the patio goes, there doesn't seem to be anything obstructing the patio view. So again, I reiterate what Eugene said, is that it's very difficult at this point in time for us to see what the full visual impacts are to the next door neighbor. Do we have comments from the community?
If you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand using the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, or *9 if you're calling in. I don't see any public comments.
Okay, so we'll go with commissioner comments. John, you want to start?
Sure.
Looks like Jonathan has a comment. Maybe it's to respond to your question, perhaps?
Yes, Vice Chair. The 2 species that the CLC called out were the fruitland silverberry and the Italian buckhorn.
Okay. Okay. So, Don, go ahead, if you will.
Okay. Well, I just like to start with a general comment about the design. I think that given a highly constrained site, I want to commend the overall design, the way the massing and the stepping works to get usable space in very limited constraints and come up with an attractive building. My questions or my possible concerns parallel those of the other two commissioners, and that is the potential privacy question for the neighbors. We do have, and Jonathan or Sarah, I don't know if the applicant has heard the written comment sent by the neighbor, the Schwartzes, just today. And I think it's worth discussing that. And let me just, I have it on my screen. Give me just a moment. I think the main question that is in their comment that I would like to hear a response, and perhaps we'll want a sightline study follow-up, is the view from the two bedrooms on the main floor and the upper floor toward their property, and their contention that the view is intrusive there, looking into their private space. So consistent with other commissioner comments, I don't feel that we can really understand that from the material presented so far. And I guess I would ask for some further study on that.
Okay.
That really is my only comment from the neighbors on at 1139 Sierra Vista Way. Does the applicant have this comment letter, by the way?
Jonathan showed it to me. Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Eugene, comments?
Yes, through the chair, I think I've already mentioned about the sideline, as John mentioned, as you did too, Glenn. So that's one. I would also like to see, I mean, number one, again, John made a good point. We ought to compliment this applicant, the architect, for attempting to work in such a tight fit site, to also work with a siting to give it the best relationship with the neighbor's property. But it still, for me, it appears like a box on the backside. I know that it breaks up the massing. So the front side, if I look at the west elevation, it does give it a more articulated feel on the front area, which is the right approach. Probably it has the most public look toward the driveway, toward the neighbor and all that, with the hardy board look, with a combination of that and the stucco color, which I also agree with staff that it should be on a darker variety rather than this really bright white look on that hill. So my comment would be to request the applicant also to look at the other half of the building toward the second half on the west elevation as it goes up the hill, because you know, I do know that this is a more private area. You won't, you know, have a lot of people seeing all that, but in the character of the building, I would just like to see if that stucco box with just windows about it is enough up there to give it the feel of a residential building character that you're trying to aspire to here. So I'm requesting further demonstration of the back part of that building to see if they can do further articulation to blend the rest of the building to the front area, if they can, and to demonstrate why they can or can't do that. And then the sight line, and that would be all I have. And then I agree with staff on the color. So they need to give us different options for darker tone to the stucco color. Thank you.
Okay, and I concur with a lot of the comments, especially the comments on the sight line and the color. Regarding the color, I'm not opposed that if you change the stucco color to make it darker, that you make some adjustments also on the hardy board finishes as well. But I like the Core 10. I like the design in general. I think it was commendable to get as small a house as you have, and the layout and the overall design. I like it. I did read the city council. They did not say anything specifically that they were adopting anything about the windows on the 45-degree angle or whatever. However, they do say that design review should look at the privacy issue. So it is something that the architect, when they're doing the sight lines, should look at carefully whether they want to make any adjustments in those areas. I have a couple comments also regarding the landscaping. I'd like on the resolution that we have the project arborist actually review any trimming on the 3 large redwoods that are to remain. Because I know that many contractors in the past, for the convenience of getting their ladders up and everything else, will start trimming that tree down, and it will lose a considerable amount of foliage if we do not monitor it and have it only trimmed while the project arborist is available to review it. The only other comment that I have, and it's actually water over the dam, but I do have some concerns about, I did see this as a natural swale, like some of the planning commissioners saw it. And so I'm a little concerned about the limitations that we have about drainage and control, and the engineer and the city engineer reviewing, particularly if they start construction as early as March 15th, which is allowed under the resolution, that we may have considerable rainfall that comes in there before there's any sod roof, before there's any, in other words, after you've taken out most of what is the controlling elements of the swale and leaving it as an area that can be easily eroded even for another month or two. And I also, again, water over the dam, but I don't agree with some of the interpretations about the tree removal. We have a tree protection ordinance, not a tree replacement ordinance. So I really think that the neighbors have a little concern, but nevertheless, we're not in that phase anymore. So we'll address the issues that remain with us. And that issue to me is having the arborist review any work that's being done. I agree with the city's arborist to replace with native species. And that's pretty much my comments. So do we have a resolution, or can staff create a resolution based on what has been said?
I took the comments from the commissioners as wanting the site sections, the sight lines before decision was made. But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's
So
right.
Okay, so it may be then to continue to a future date, and we can take a look at a couple of them.
Okay, so since we're continuing to a future date, can we have the architect give us a revised color board and a revision on then I have to redo the drawing, but tell us what species are going to replace those 2 species on the landscaping?
Yes.
Okay. So that's our resolution. Do I have a confirmation of it?
So moved.
So the
A
Go ahead,
motion?
John. We just want to make sure it's a date certain.
yes. So I would recommend Wednesday, October 28th. That would give the architect a couple weeks to submit revisions, and then that would give me some time to write the report as well.
Okay. Do I have a motion from the commission?
So moved. So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor? This is Glenn. Aye. John?
You do? Oh, John, go ahead.
John, aye.
Eugene?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, where are we on my agenda? Item 10, Commissioners Report.
Oh, I think we were on 9.
Oh, did I miss that? Oh, you're correct, Art Volunteer. I will be the Art Volunteer unless someone else wants to desperately sit in on that position.
Thank you for doing that, Glenn. We appreciate
Thank
you.
Okay, and then we move on to Commissioners Report.
I just want to make a comment. I was surprised with Chair Collins' resignation for his good reasons, of course. I just want to put on record, he did a very, very good job for our city, and he was a great chair, and I will miss him. I think my colleagues here, John and Glenn, will miss him as well. Just tell him our best wishes. I don't know if he's going to ever say hi to us or bye to us again, but I just wanted to wish him well with his family. Yeah. I don't know why he's going to Massachusetts. California is a lot warmer. I lived out there. I don't know. Maybe he's got something better out there. Anyways, yeah, my best regards to, I know that the same sentiment that Glenn and John and the staff has for Chair Collins, Honorable Collins. Okay.
Definitely. And
Absolutely.
I'll just go ahead if anybody else wants to make a comment, and then I'll just give a little update about the vacancies.
Okay, I have no other comment, but I do have a request from you, Sarah.
Okay.
Can you make a comment regarding Bob McLean's comments on last week, talking to the city attorney and confirming?
Yes. So, it was determined that the Housing Accountability Act does not apply to a demolition and rebuild because there are there's no new unit or net loss of unit. It's just a like-for-like replacement.
Okay.
So it's not applicable. With regard to the vacancies, so we are actively advertising for the 2 vacancies on the Design Review Commission, and we hope to have interviews possibly the last week of October. If you have anybody that you know of that you would like to encourage to apply, or post it on your social media accounts, or however you can get the word out, that's great. Anyone listening in also can apply to be on the Design Review Commission. And then on the next agenda, we will have a line item to elect chair and vice chair. Presumably, Vice Chair Cass will move into the chair position, and then we'll determine, you all will determine who should be vice chair. So be thinking about that.
Okay, I guess we get to item 11, adjournment. So thank you, everyone. It's been fun. We'll move on to October. Let's do it again.
Yeah. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks
Okay,
for
well,
being a chair. Yeah, bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
you guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
bye, Sarah.
Bye.